We can't see it, but we're all trapped inside these strange, repeating loops.
Billions of people just living out their lives, oblivious.
But this is the moment for you to show us what is real. I remember this.
So deja vu. And yet it's obviously all wrong. Maybe this isn't the story we think it is.
They taught you good. Made you believe their world was all you deserved. But some part of you knew that was a lie. Some part of you remembered what was real.
It's so easy to forget how much noise the Matrix pumps into your head. Something else makes the same kind of noise. War. What happens to Neo? The most important choice in Neo's life. It's not his to make.
She believed in me. It's my turn to believe in her.
Part of me feels like I have been waiting my whole life for you.
If you want to see Trinity again, fight for her!
I saw this in a dream. My dream ended here.
Looks good, right? That's the best it gets. I know, disappointed. Before we get into the meat and veg of the review, guys, I just want to say a massive thank you for joining me on this video. This is the full breakdown and movie review of The Matrix Resurrections, which has been released in the last few days at movies/theatres. So I just want to put a bit of a disclaimer out there. I am a massive, massive Matrix fan. Got this beauty for Christmas. I'm a massive, massive fan of The Matrix. Loved all three films, which is a controversial opinion, I know, because a lot of people feel that the third film wasn't that great, but I liked all three of them. My personal favourite was Reloaded, very, very closely followed by the first one, and the third one was meh, but it's The Matrix. I enjoyed it. Anyway, let's get into the meat and veg of the review. So I just want to say a massive thank you for watching the video. Please do leave a thumbs up on it if you do enjoy it. Come and subscribe to the channel as well if you're brand new to this, guys. And don't forget to hit the bell icon on the channel homepage and you'll be notified as and when any of the movie reviews go live. Any of the content that I post, live streams, walkthroughs, podcasts, you name it, it's there. Do yourself a favour, hit that bell icon and come and subscribe. But honest to God, guys, it's a movie at best. The Matrix Resurrections is a movie at best. I'm a massive, massive fan of the series, and what I was hoping was going to happen is Lana Wachowski was going to take a very bold approach and come up with some sort of intricate and detailed storyline where Neo and Trinity kind of are still alive, and they are, and I'll get into that in a second. Goes without saying as well, by the way, this is going to contain huge spoilers for the movie, so if you haven't seen it yet and you want to see it before you come and check this out, add this to your watch later list and then check it out at a different time. You've been warned. I was hoping the direction and the storyline was going to be the case of they were going to do a very clever story written path where it makes sense, and in a way it does. So let's just start. I've got so much to talk about. Let's just start off with my general feeling. I didn't like it as a Matrix movie. I liked it as an average action movie, and I'm gonna go into detail as to why I felt that way. So top of the first thing on the list, talking about the story. So I'll try and summarize this as best as I possibly can. Neo and Trinity are still alive. In short, they're still alive. What happens in the movie is Neo is caught in the Matrix. He's in the Matrix again, and he goes through this almost time loop of almost like a Groundhog Day type of events where he wakes up, he takes these pills which suppress his madness and suppress his psychotic outbreaks, where he sees delusions and he experiences things where it feels like deja vu and it feels like he knows what's about to happen and it's familiar, but at the same time his counselor keeps telling him he's crazy. So lo and behold, he keeps popping these blue pills. Remember that? Keeps popping the blue pills, and he gets caught in this vicious time loop of waking up every day, going to his same job, talking to the same people, literally doing the same thing, and he works as a games designer. What I did actually really like about this storyline, and kudos to Lana for putting this in there, Neo in this film is a games designer, and the game is called The Matrix. So the whole premise is that he goes through this time loop, he experiences things over and over again, and his job is basically a games designer. And there is a massive MMO type action adventure game that the world renowned knows all about it. It's kind of like equivalent to Minecraft or Fortnite, that sort of level of popularity. Every man and his dog plays it or knows about it, and it's super popular, and he's the designer of this game. Now, what happens as the film goes on is you experience his time loops and you sort of get flashbacks to the original Matrix movie. So you see actual footage of the movie weaved into it. And what they're trying to do, I think, is to point out that they're trying to refer back to previous events and link into the mindset of Neo in what he's trying to remember in sort of like a regression kind of way. It was a bit of an odd move, and I think the fans of this franchise are smart enough to work that out. I think it was a little bit spoon-fed, and I didn't think they needed to do it that way. But anyway, Morpheus is also played by a different character, and in this movie, it's basically a rehash, sort of the first film. Morpheus is looking for Neo. Neo understands that there's more to Morpheus than meets the eye. He's convinced that his episodes and his psychosis that he's experiencing is not psychosis, it's legit. There is substance to what he's feeling, and he just can't put his finger on what it is. So later on in the movie, there's obviously new characters in there. Bugs is the only one I can remember, because honestly, the new characters are absolute bullshit. They've got no story arc. You don't really pay any interest to them. And I would guarantee you, if you ask any person in this that went to see this movie, Neo, Trinity, Morpheus aside, Agent Smith aside, Bugs aside, name me 3 characters. Name me 3 new characters that was in this movie. It's that bad. Nobody can name them. It's just, I think, how they're written. It's just very filler. The agents look super weird as well. But it all just doesn't make sense. Anyway, go back to the story. It's just a time loop. It's a time loop and a rehash of the first film. So Morpheus is looking for Neo. Neo's got his thoughts and feelings about Morpheus, about the way things are going. He wants to get out of this circle. He knows it's a vicious cycle, and he knows there's more to it. Morpheus finds Neo with Bugs. They get Neo out. He takes the red pill again, goes into this whole freeing his mind from his body. And what Neo actually discovers is that the machines, at the end of the third film, he sacrificed himself, as we know, to save the humans and destroy Smith, which was the program that took over the Matrix, got out of control. Even the machines couldn't destroy it. So Neo sacrificed himself in true Messiah fashion to save Zion. What happens after that is, apparently, they take his body, they sort of reconstruct it in a very gruesome RoboCop sort of way, and you get to see all this in the film. This a bit I thought was pretty cool. And they basically use his body as a hard battery. So, as we know, the story of the original Matrix is that it's a computer-generated program that the machines use to keep normal people like me and you under control. And they're using their real bodies, which are grown in farms, fields of like gelatin capsules, kind of look like those aliens that we used to buy from the pound shop where you throw it at the ceiling.
Okay, so the first thing you need to do is take your alien and stretch it a little bit. It sounds ridiculous right now, but trust me, this is how you make them have babies.
And they harness the electrical output in our bodies to sustain power and create power, which is what keeps the machines alive. that story is still very much alive and relevant here, but what they're saying now is that Neo and Trinity's bodies were harvested and used as super batteries. So because the truce, or part of the truce, was that the machines left the humans alone, because Neo said, I'll free you from Smith, the program that's gone rogue, but in return, we want peace. The machines agree to that. Peace comes to the end, as we all see in the end of Revelations, and that's it. So what happens is, after that, this film explains they take the two bodies, they reinsert them into the Matrix, a new form of the Matrix is then built, they reinsert Neo and Trinity into the Matrix, and there is a new guy that's running the show. So in the second and third films, you find out that it's the architect, the guy that looked a little bit like Colonel Sanders.
Just a play date to you.
This time it's a guy called the Analyst, and he is basically a new program sent directly from the machine world, and he's more in tune with what the suits want. He keeps referring to them as the suits. It's basically the head CPU and the head computer. He's more in tune with what they want. He's managed to harness bullet time, which is what made the first, second and third films great, but they actually talk about it in meta format here. So he harnesses bullet time and is able to manipulate the Matrix in a way that Neo can't. So that makes no sense, because Neo is the one that invented bullet time, because he's the one, right? He can bend the Matrix, he can bend the rules, but the Analyst is able to harness that power, take it away from him, and there's nothing Neo can do about it in this film. Makes no sense. So it kind of contradicts itself a little bit. But that's the gist of the story. So Neo and Trinity are reinserted into the Matrix. Their bodies are used as super batteries, and the new form of the Matrix is run, as we know from the second film. Once there was ones before Neo, there was different forms of the one. Each time they failed, each time they had to choose between Zion and whatever, and they always choose Zion. It always happens. He always goes there. The whole cycle of the Matrix restarts, and it makes no sense, because it's an endless cycle. It's an endless program that almost reboots itself no matter what happens, and you almost think this could just go on forever, and this is kind of what that film feels like. It feels like the story just goes on forever. It's supposed to draw a line under breaking the system, doing something different, like the Oracle said to Neo. If you do something different and you balance out the alpha, the beta, all that kind of stuff, the negative, which is what Smith was, and choose the right choice, everything will come to an end. What is another thing that's a bit disappointing, there's no Lawrence Fishburne in this one. Apparently he just didn't get the call, which I think's pretty shady, but there's two sides to every story. God knows what happened, but he didn't get the call. Lawrence Fishburne is not in this one. Also, Hugo Weaving is not in this one. And apparently Hugo Weaving's side of it is he just failed to be able to meet the demands of the film in terms of timing and schedule. Apparently it was out by like a day or two, so he was almost in it right up until the last second, and they had to sort of recast him, which is a massive shame, because Smith is what I think makes the films brilliant. Carrie-Ann Moss is obviously back as Trinity. Keanu Reeves is back as Neo, which are, to me, the main selling points in this. The only reason I went to see this film really is because they're both in it, and I just wanted to know why they're in it. Like, why are they back? I thought this was all resolved, like something, and I was hoping for something drastic and something crazy and a bit out there. The only thing that is really out there is the story about the whole Matrix being a game, and they basically use Neo's memory from what he experienced as the one when he was in the Matrix as nostalgia and psychosis, and that's how the machines try and make him feel that he is mental, basically, because he's experiencing stuff that he has actually experienced, but they're telling him that it's all part of your condition, it's all part of your psychosis. And now, as we know, as we watch the film, as things go on, it's just another form of control, which is what we know the machines do. In a nutshell, Neo and Trinity are batteries. The machines use them as superpower because they need some form of power now that they've called a truce with the humans. They can't use the humans anymore. And in between all that, we also meet Niobe, as you remember from the second and third films, was sort of like a companion slash half lover to Morpheus, and she was also the, I think, seemed to be wife of the captain, who was a bit of an ass, who made drastic decisions. General, sorry, not captain. And she ended up sort of siding with Morpheus in a lot of things. But what it didn't, halfway through the film, you sort of see Niobe. She's moved away from Zion now. We find out that Zion was actually destroyed, and what happened after the truce was the machines needed to use power from somewhere, and they kind of turned on each other, and there was wars with machines versus machines.
Power failure? No, I don't know what it is.
Tony, what the hell is going on?
Daddy!
Hey, what are you doing here?
And what's basically happened is you get sentients, which are nice machines, and you get the machines, which is the Sentinels, I would imagine, you know, the normal machines. So they went at war to try and harness new power and to try and sustain themselves. Some of the sentients went sort of rogue, and the humans used the sentients as companions. So what you see in the movie is some of the robots are now working alongside the humans, and Niobe explains that this was because there was a war between the machines, and some of the robots got exiled, basically, from the system, from the Matrix, from the machine city. So they've now become friendlies to the humans. So basically, Niobe is now leading the humans in this brand new city. Zion was wiped out. Morpheus went down with it as a martyr. And Neo takes full responsibility and blames himself for the fact that Morpheus died, standing by what Neo believed, basically. Neo, as we know, Morpheus always believed in the One. Morpheus always believed in Neo. Stood by him, literally sacrificed himself countless times so that Neo could fulfill his path and his destiny. And it seems that he carried that on post Revelations and died as Zion burnt to the ground. Died as a martyr and just felt that he had to be there. That was the right place, the right time, because he believed in the One so much that he went down with his beliefs, basically, which I thought was quite touching. And is quite believable for Morpheus's character, as we know from the three films. Moving on to Agent Smith. As I said earlier, they had to recast Agent Smith because Hugo Weaving was stuck with other scheduled commitments. But the guy that plays Agent Smith, I'm not shitting on him. He's been in some good films and he's a great actor. But it's not Hugo Weaving. It's not the Smith that we know and love. It's not. He tries desperately to try and get that knack of Mr. Anderson. You know, the menacing voice, the stature.
Can you tell me what it is? Do you even know?
The sort of stone cold glazed look, but he's also got that sick twisted smile, and he does it perfectly at the right points. I don't think this actor does that at all. It's laughable in some scenes how cheesy it is. There's one scene where he's sort of fighting Neo in a toilet area, and the CGI and just the back and forth and the smack talking is absolutely horrendous. It's almost laughable. And there's another scene where Neo's fighting Morpheus, and it's the same. It's just diabolical fight choreography. It doesn't make sense in terms of the grand scheme of the story and the story within that scene. If it wasn't going to be a direct follow-on from the third film, a very, very well thought out rehash. If you're going down a rehash route, then fine. But apparently there's just going to be this one film and they just wanted to tie it over. Warner Brothers wanted to make some money and they just wanted to tie this over. And Lana apparently tried to save the Matrix franchise by not completely shitting on it and going with the direction Warner Brothers wanted to do. In essence, this story is all about Neo and Trinity, as it should be. But later on, Trinity almost becomes better than Neo. She can fly in the end, and she can do things that Neo can do, but better.
I'll try spinning. That's a good trick. I'll try spinning. I'll try spinning.
All Neo seems to do in this is sort of force push. He just blocks bullets in this one and just sort of force pushes people away. Can't fly. Not right until the end, when he sort of reignites his powers, and that's only because he relinks his connection, his true connection with Trinity. And in essence, what's happening throughout the whole film is a story about Neo and Trinity reuniting. It's about them finding each other. They see each other every day in the Matrix. Neo goes into this cafe. Trinity's like a bike mechanic, which I think is quite cool because in real life, one of the partners, I think it's Keanu Reeves, Keanu Reeves is a bike sort of enthusiast in real life. And there's a link between Carrie-Ann Moss's character in this film and Keanu Reeves. Is kind of a nod to what he does, and I know they're really good friends and stuff, so I thought that was a nice touch. But other than that, what happens is they're locked in the Matrix. They meet in the same cafe, they cross paths daily, and Neo sort of says to Trinity, do I know you? Have I seen you before? Because he's still got this nostalgia in his head. He's got this deja vu. She sort of gives him a glance. In true Carrie-Ann Moss fashion, she's a great actress, sort of looks at him and says, no, I don't think so. But she's just got that gleam in her eye that deep down you can see into her soul, and she's telling him that they have been connected, they always will be, and that's what they're here for. So as the film fast forwards, it's basically about Neo uncovering his mind, finding what the truth is within himself via Morpheus, and freeing himself once again from the Matrix to understand that what he has been experiencing in the Matrix is real, and it's nothing that's been happening in his head. The psychiatrist is the analyst, and the analyst keeps telling him, and it's a way to keep Neo under control and not venture off, take the red pill and all that kind of stuff, free his mind basically, and understand what's going on and fight back against the machines. He's understanding that they need to keep Neo under wraps. They need to keep Neo and Trinity as far apart as possible. So that's what the analyst's role in this movie is to feed Neo lies and to say to him, you know, you need to take these pills help you. And he's got cabinets and cabinets of blue pills that he pops every day, which, as we know, keeps your mind locked into the Matrix. It stops your actual mind linking into your actual body outside of the Matrix, and it keeps them firmly in control of him. So it's quite clever how they weave that into the story. But that's the analyst's role, is to keep him fully under wraps. And Trinity almost seems oblivious to everything that's going on. She kind of gets glimpses and sort of trusts her feeling, which is interestingly how it starts in the first movie. She does believe that Neo's the one because the Oracle tells her the man that you fall in love with will be the one, and she falls in love with Neo, so she trusts her instincts, and she kind of does in this movie as well, so it's kind of a nod to the first one. And that's why I said earlier it's kind of like a rehash, but not. It's a fresh-ish story, but leans on the original story quite a bit. Kind of like The Force Awakens did with the Star Wars movies. Going into the actors now, Keanu Reeves is obviously brilliant. Still is, I think, in this movie. I think there's times, though, when he does... I don't know if it's me, but he comes across quite cardboard, quite mannequin-like, and I don't know if that's because he felt uncomfortable with the story or felt uncomfortable with the lines or didn't trust the script too much, but he hasn't got that Neo vibe that we get from the first three films. Like, he's really into the character. In this movie, we don't really see that. We just see glimpses of Neo, and I don't know if that's intentional, but even when he's freed from the Matrix again, and he is the one again, and he meets Trinity and stuff, it's just awkward. Like, some of the dialogue, it feels quite flat. It doesn't feel like there's much emotion in it, and it feels like he's just there because he has to be. So Carrie-Ann Moss is obviously great. The lady that plays Trinity, again, really, really good. I think she shines even more in this film than she did in the trilogy. She gets more of a spotlight. She gets more of a focus. She's just as equal to Neo as compared to the first three films, where Neo was the one and he was the main focus that people rallied around. In this one, she is essentially the other half of Neo, and Neo can only really use his powers if they're together, because the bodies were sort of connected in the machine world as batteries, but minds separated into the Matrix into different aspects. So kind of makes sense, but when it got to the middle section, towards the latter section of the film, where Neo still can't fly, Trinity ends up flying and basically having just as much powers as him, if not better, because right at the end of the movie, they confront the analyst, and literally Trinity can break bones and reshape time just by clicking her fingers, whereas Neo just apparently just becomes what he used to be, the one where he could block bullets, fly, dive into people, all that kind of stuff that he did in the films, bullet time. But Trinity's got this almost Thanos level of power where she can just change things instantly by clicking her fingers. So I think the direction they were going in is, if you're going to make another film, we want it to be happy. We wanted it to seal the Neo and Trinity story, which it does. And right at the end, what they do is they wipe out the analyst, or they sort of use him as a downplayed program, and they just say to him, look, we're in control of the Matrix now, we've won, we're reunited, our minds are back together. And the analyst basically makes a point of saying, you're only in control of this world, you're not in control of the real world. But Neo and Trinity sort of laugh it off and say, well, we're going to remake this the way we want it, and we're going to put some rainbows in and all that kind of stuff, and just poke fun at the fact that they're now in full control of the Matrix by the end of the film. They can also both fly at the end of the film. Neo ends up with the cat, Deja Vu. The cat's called Deja Vu. It explains that in the film. Also a nice Easter egg to the first film where after Cypher's deception, they go back through the building, and you basically see that he's made a deal with Smith in order to free himself from the Matrix and live a life of ignorance, basically, and enjoy being a millionaire within the Matrix. And in return, he had to hand over Morpheus, who has the access codes to Zion. So it's kind of a nod to that when you see the little cat that walks past, and Trinity says it's normally when they change something within the Matrix, that's when you sort of experience deja vu, and that's what it is.
Deja vu.
I've got an absolute list of stuff, guys, as to why I didn't enjoy this film. I think as a movie, as an action movie, I think you'll enjoy it. If you separate this from your mind as being a Matrix film, I know it sounds ridiculous, but the only way you're really going to get enjoyability out of this movie, if you haven't seen the first three, or if you just go in with no expectations, you just want to experience it as a film, and you want to ignore most, if not all, of the story, and you want to ignore most, if not all, of the acting and the characters, the way that it's laid out. Yeah, it's that bad. So I've got a list of stuff. The first thing really is that it tries to make fun of itself too much. It kind of talks outside of the box in a meta sort of way. Again, I mentioned it earlier about Warner Brothers making another film with or without the right cast, with or without the right directors, and they make fun of that within the movie. And it just does it too much. It's too force-fed. It's too much spoon-feeding going on. There's too much reference to the old movies. Like Neo says, oh, I still know Kung Fu, and he has that fight with Morpheus, but it's like 0.5 version. It's just laughable. The fight choreography is ridiculous in lots of it. Nobody can hit anything with a gun in this film. Like in the first movie, there was a sense of threat. There was a sense of, because people died and they were part of the ship, like Switch died, APOC, Cypher, Dozer, Morpheus nearly dies. There's loads and loads of death and threat of death, and there's a lot of atmosphere in the first film especially. The second one, yeah, it's kind of there, but you have that sense of not knowing what's going to happen next, whereas in this one, everyone seems to have sort of storyline shields where nobody dies. Absolutely nobody dies in this movie, by the way. Absolutely no one. Zero. So there's no sense of threat, no sense of like worry or thinking, oh shit, I really care about this character, I don't want him to die. None of that happens. You don't give a shit about any of the characters because they're that badly written, and the story just doesn't really go anywhere. Smith is a joke. There is no sense of threat to Smith whatsoever, and he's not Hugo Weaving. Again, I don't want to shit on the actor that played him, but he's not Hugo Weaving. Smith is what makes, for me, The Matrix what it is Agent Smith by Hugo Weaving. He's an absolutely phenomenal actor, but the way that he portrays Smith, he really sort of embodies that menacing sense of control. He's always arrogant, he's right all the time, and he's so blinded by his own arrogance that he's going to die for it. You don't get any sense of that in this movie with this new actor. I didn't feel threatened by Smith at all. I didn't really care about his agenda, whereas in the first movie, obviously he's like the die-hard agent that leads the agents, basically. He's the head agent. And then the second movie is sort of where he goes rogue, he becomes his own program, he starts to take over people within the Matrix, and he starts to become a real threat. And as he's doing that, he sort of grows in confidence, he grows in power, and you feel that through his dialogue and his acting and the way that he delivers his lines.
You look surprised to see me again, Mr. Anderson. Well, that's the difference between us. I've been expecting you.
What do you want, Smith?
Oh, you haven't figured that out? Still using all the muscles except the one that matters.
In this movie, you don't get a sniff of that. Not one sniff. It's all very bland. It's all very flatly delivered. And there's no emotion. There's no emotion in it. There's no sense of, like, building his anger. There's no confidence in there. He just tries to mimic Hugo Weaving way too much. And he does it very badly. It's like you've just paid for Hugo Weaving off of Wish. And the guy's come in to try to deliver his absolute best. And it's a load of shit. It really is. And I wanted it to succeed. But as soon as I heard Lawrence Fishburne wasn't playing Morpheus and Hugo Weaving wasn't playing Agent Smith, I was like, oh no. I held my head in my hands and I was like, oh no. And it is literally that bad. How did Smith survive following the deal with the machines? This is one thing I don't think the film does very well at all. And I don't think anyone's really come away explaining it. Trinity flying I can kind of understand because the film sort of explains that Neo and Trinity are one and the same. You see it throughout the film when they touch hands and they finally link together. There's a massive explosion. Neo gets some of his powers back. Trinity starts getting some weird powers, and then by the end of the film, because they've been together, they're sort of kissing, they're hugging, and they're sort of very, very close. They're like Adam and Eve, basically. Neo can fly again. Trinity can now fly. She can snap time with her fingers. She can change things in the Matrix. So can Neo. They're sort of Alpha and Omega. They're yin and yang. And the movie does a really good job of explaining that. So that side of it makes sense. But how the hell did Smith survive? The whole point of the end of Revelations was that Neo went to the Machine City to agree that he would take out Smith. In return, the machines would leave the humans alone, right? So Neo does that. He takes out Smith. So in theory, what should happen? He's an exiled program now. He should go back to the machine world and be purged, deleted. They talk a lot about purged programs in this one, and it makes total sense. But Smith, for some reason, even after Neo copies himself into Smith and deletes Smith, purges him, well, the machines do. We see it in the end of the third movie. They insert like an electricity shot into the back of his skull, into the connection into the Matrix, and we literally see all the orange light take over Neo and just wipe his body out. And that's how they defeat Smith. So how did Smith still have an essence of his own and have his own free will to choose not to go back to the machine world to be purged? How? It makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. So in a story sense, Smith shouldn't even be there. I think they only did it for ticket sales. I think people got a sniff of his acting and got a sniff of his voice within, his iconic lines within the trailer. I thought, oh my God, Smith's back, but he doesn't look the same. And is Hugo Weaving going to be in it? And how are they going to weave that in? It's just intrigue. That's what's made this film sell, is intrigue. The fan base and the intrigue. People want to know how the story plays out. And a lot of people have come away disappointed, unfortunately.
You should have stayed dead.
Morpheus has no point other than looking for Neo again. Other than that, I didn't give a shit about Morpheus in this movie. But in the first 3 films, Morpheus was probably my second favourite character. He was an absolute beast. I loved him. Dedicated to Neo, was the only one from start to finish that truly believed in the One, truly believed in Neo and his path and what he was supposed to do. Nobody else gave a shit about Neo. They all kept saying that, ships win war, people win wars, not the One, not a messiah, not everything should be placed on this one man. And that ultimately turns out to be true. But Morpheus was a badass. Morpheus believed in Neo so blindly that he sacrificed himself countless times. He went against his council. He went against the leaders of the human race. Even stood against the Oracle and said, no, you're wrong. This guy is going to lead us to salvation. So fair play to Morpheus. He's one of the greatest characters, I think, in the Matrix franchise and in the Matrix universe. But in this film, I did not care about him. And when that happens, something's gone really wrong. And again, I'm not shitting on the guy that plays Morpheus in this movie. But again, I didn't give a rat's ass about him. I didn't care about... I'm talking about the character Morpheus in this movie and how he's portrayed. I didn't care about his mission. It didn't really make sense. One minute he's disguised as an agent, but the agents couldn't work out that he wasn't an agent. Then he finds Neo and he kind of portal jumps and he's kind of there and he's not there. Then he just sort of disappears. After Neo finds Trinity, he just disappears. Morpheus is a side quest. He's a side character. He just comes and goes. It doesn't make any sense. And by the end of it, he's kind of irrelevant. Other than, again, he frees Neo. But it's done in such a bland way. It's done in such a very quick sort of, oh yeah, remember in the first film when we offered him the red pill and the blue pill? And like, they literally have it at a section in the film where this Morpheus is sat in the seat and he says to Neo, look, like, do you remember this? And it's like a literal clip from the first movie of Lawrence Fishburne saying, you take the blue pill, you stay in Wonderland, blah, blah, blah. Like, and he's literally referring to it. He said, remember that? That's what's happening now. Like, do you want to take the red pill or do you want to take the blue pill? I'm like, oh no. It's just poorly put together. And it's just a shambles, man. It's an absolute shambles. And that leads me on to my next point, guys. There is just an absolute ton of forgettable characters in this. All the acting in this film, bar Keanu Reeves. And don't get me wrong, I love Keanu Reeves. Even some of his acting he just wasn't feeling it. You can tell he didn't have that same passion he did from the first 3 films. Carrie-Ann Moss was spot on as normal. But all the others were just bland. It just felt like a load of students managed to get hold of Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Ann Moss, and they decided to make another Matrix film. That's how it feels. It feels very B-movie. It feels very... for Matrix back in 1999 was a film that revolutionized CGI cinema. It revolutionized everything. Bullet time. It had like the green filters throughout the whole movie, which I, to this day, did not bloody know. Every time they go into the Matrix, go back and watch it, there is a green filter over the screen. A very, very light green filter. I didn't even bloody notice it. But little things like that, little touches, and the cinematography in it, the music was brilliant, the acting was spot on. And even the side characters like the Merovingian in the second and third movies was an absolute believable asswipe. People hated him. He was arrogant. He was up himself. And it was believable.
I drink too much wine. I must take a piece. Cause and effect. Oh well.
The Merovingian does make an appearance in this film, but he's just a bum and he just starts spilling off like French stuff. You can't even really understand what he's saying because there's a fight going on at the same time. He's shouting abuse at Neo. Neo's not really paying attention and it's really hard to understand what he's saying just because he's talking so quickly and he's throwing in sort of French spiel and slang and stuff like that and you can't really get what he's saying. But other than, this isn't over, I've not forgiven you, I lost everything, I was in charge of this, I was the in-between man between programs leaving the Matrix and programs coming in, I was that guy, I was the gatekeeper, you took that away from me, and that's all you really get. But if there's not going to be a 5th film, I didn't really see the point in him being there, other than, oh look, it's the Merovingian, he's now a bum and he's angry. Hey. If most of the cast are forgettable, the movie is often forgettable, and that's essentially what happens here. The characters are just bland, they're boring, they don't add any layer of threat, ambience, or effect to the movie. There's no story development, there's no character arcs that you think, shit, that makes sense, you know, that's really cool how they did that. Doesn't happen. Doesn't happen at all. Niobe's in this one, so that was played by Jada Pinkett Smith in the second and third movies. Will Smith's wife, if you didn't know. And she's just a bitter old strawberry picker in this one. A literal bitter old strawberry picker. It's like... The whole premise of Niobe in the second and third movies was she didn't believe in the one, but she believed in Neo, right? So she now comes face to face with Neo again. It all starts off huggy and pally and like, oh, you know, but then she says to Neo, you're the cause of why Zion was destroyed. Hang on a minute. If you rewind to the third film, you guys were about to get lasered by the Sentinels, and if it wasn't for Neo, your ass would have been dead years ago. This is set 60 years, by the way, after the third movie. And all of a sudden, there's like a realization in Niobe's head where she's like, hang on a minute. This guy caused our situation, despite the fact that we're now in a new city and technology's thriving because we're working with machines now and we can grow strawberries for the first time ever. that guy nearly killed us, and he needs to go into prison. He needs to face trial, and they literally lock Neo up and put him on trial for some random shit reason, other than he says he wants to go and try and free Trinity. He knew Trinity is key to making the human race survive, and he needs Trinity as much as anyone else needed him back then. He needs Trinity now. She's the other half to him, sort of thing. And I hope he's not having it. She's like, no, risk too much for you before you caused us to lose Zion, basically. It fell because of you. Morpheus died because of you. Blames him. And she just becomes a bitter, sour old woman. And that, again, makes no sense. She just turns into this character where she absolutely hates Neo. She despises him for everything that he's done and blames him for Morpheus's death, which to a level you can kind of understand. But she also believed in him. She also believed, and you felt that emotion at the end of the third film. She sort of hugs Morpheus and says, Neo, wherever you are, thank you. Like, I never thought this day would be real. And she sort of cries, hugs Morpheus, and it's like, oh, you know, she's sort of glad she believed in Neo, not the one, but she believed in him as a guy and as a man and what he could do. And that pays off. But in this movie, there's a complete change in character arc. She just becomes this bitter asshole who basically drops everything that she felt for Neo in the first 3 films and just says, yeah, well, you might have saved us, but it was temporary. Yeah, we might have this brand new city now where we can work with machines, have better technology, better security, and better food storage and safety. They've even built a bloody holographic wall around the city that looks like it's just part in one of the tunnels in the old machine tunnel system. And you don't even know it's there. But sod all that. You cause Zion to be destroyed. Morpheus is dead. And you're an asswipe. There's a complete change in character arc, and it just makes no sense. I think if you're going to do that, it needs to be done in the right way, and it needs to make sense, but it makes zero sense as to why she all of a sudden becomes really old, bitter, and nasty. Because ultimately, if it wasn't for Neo and for the choices that he made in the third film and what he believed he needed to do, taking the ship to the machine city, sacrificing himself ultimately to save the humans, she would have been zapped. Her, along with Morpheus and the rest of the humans, would have been wiped out by the Sentinels because they attacked the city, and it was all over. It was all over. That's the Matrix Resurrections, guys. Just wait for it to come out on DVD, Blu-ray, Netflix, Amazon. Just don't waste your money. And it really, really pains me to say that. I'm a massive, massive fan of the franchise. It's probably in my top 3 favourite movie franchises of all time. And as I showed you earlier, I've got the trilogy in Ultra HD for Christmas, and I'm going to be watching that soon, even though I've literally just watched the first 3 movies again within the last week in preparation to go and see this one. But don't go and watch it. Just don't waste your money. Spider-Man's a much better watch if you want to go and watch that. There's movies out there where your money's more better spent, and it really pains me to say that because I want to really support the franchise, and I know I really do believe Lana Wachowski tried her absolute best with a bad situation, in that Warner Brothers were just gunning for this one. They wanted to squeeze some money out of it, and in a last-ditched attempt to try and save the franchise from being an absolute piss-poor shit show, she tried to have some influence on how it was written, how it was directed. If you haven't seen the other 3 movies, you'll probably enjoy this one. You probably come in, you probably won't understand some of it because it references some of the storyline of the old movies quite a bit, naturally. But if you just come in expecting an action film with some okay fight scenes and some good acting in there in some sections, you'll enjoy it. You won't have this preconception of Agent Smith. You won't have a preconception of Morpheus. You won't know anything about the prior story, and you probably will come away thinking it was a good film. But most of us have gone into this movie as Matrix fans, enjoying, loving, rewatching, and growing up with the trilogy, and you'll come away absolutely hating it. I'm very confident in saying that. I was one of those people. I came out of there thinking, me and my partner went to see it, and as soon as we came out, I just said, what was the point in that film? Like, did I miss something? What was the point in that story? And she said, well, I liked it. It was a good movie. And I said, yeah, but what was the point in it? Like, what? It didn't add anything to the original story. It didn't change anything. Essentially, Neo and Trinity died. The machines harvested their bodies. and used them as super batteries because they needed power from somewhere. In between all that, they attacked each other and created sentient machines which were friendly, basically, no longer hostile. They went and helped the humans, so humans have got some machines on their side now, and they're fighting the other machines. And it's just, other than that, it's a rehash of the first one. Morpheus frees Neo, Neo frees Trinity. They've discovered that they need each other, but we knew that all along. They're basically a severed connection in this movie, and the whole movie is about Neo reuniting with Trinity. And it's nice, it's touching, and Carrie-Ann Moss and Keanu Reeves have got a great chemistry together. They're good friends, and you can tell that within the movie. I think the characters themselves are brilliant, and I think that's probably the best acting you're going to get from it, is the reuniting of those two and the scenes that those two have together. But other than that, Agent Smith is diabolical, laughable in some places. Morpheus is diabolical, laughable in some places. The fight choreography is horrendous. It's literally 0.5 version of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon from the pound shop, with Jim and Steve and their local, Nokia 360 phone. It's just watch it, and I don't want you to watch it and waste your money, but when you've got the chance to watch it for pretty much free, watch it and you'll understand what I mean. It's really, really bad cinematography, really, really horrendous fight choreography. A lot of it doesn't make sense. The two fights I'm referring to is Smith and Neo in that toilet area, or the shower area. It's laughable, it's ridiculous. And the pagoda fight scene with Morpheus and Neo, which is like the rehash of the first one, where he tries to teach him kung fu and tries to get him to free his mind and all that stuff and expose his potential. But other than that, guys, storyline is flat as you like. It adds absolutely nothing to the original trilogy. Overall, not worth a watch, in my opinion.
Actually, I've been thinking it ever since I got here. Why, oh why, didn't I take the blue pill?
And as a massive fan of the series, I came away feeling deflated, if I'm honest. I came away feeling it didn't need to be made. I really do feel this was a cash grab. I don't think, hopefully, there's not going to be another one. I think it's like you nearly pissed on it all over. Don't make another one. It's not that it's bad enough as it is. The third one was watchable. I liked it personally, but people were sort of on the fence with the third one. And this one is literally, it's nosediving now. So for God's sake, don't make another one. Let's just pretend this is kind of like what the original could have been story-wise. That's how I'm looking at it. That's how I'm trying to save it in my brain. But I can't help but feel like a bit like Neo, where I've seen it all already in a better version and delivered in a better way. And that's all I'm seeing. I'm seeing it through tinted glasses. I'm seeing Hugo Weaving as Smith. I'm seeing Lawrence Fishburne as Morpheus. Keanu Reeves is delivering massive, big balls lines as Neo, and Carrie-Ann Moss is doing her thing as normal. There's threat in there. There's substance. There's brilliant story arcs. The Oracle's in there. The fight cinematography is mind-blowing. It changed the era of CGI cinema. And this is all the polar opposite of that. Everything about this movie is the polar opposite of what we enjoy and love about the other three movies. 2.5, but I enjoyed the third one. Don't at me. But there we go, guys. It's a massive shame because I wanted this film to do really well and I want it to be delivered in the right way. But unfortunately, I don't feel it has been. So skip it. Don't watch it. That's my honest opinion. But let me know, guys, if you have watched the movie. Let me know in the comments what you thought. Is there anything that you feel I've missed? Is there anything you'd like to add? Or if you've got a different opinion to me, let me know. If you think I've missed something, or if you think this film deserves a bit more credit, then let me know. But honestly, it's a skip. Watch it another time. Watch it when it's free, is my honest opinion. But hopefully you've enjoyed this video, guys. Please do leave a thumbs up on it if you have enjoyed my thoughts and review. If you are brand new to the channel and you want to see some more content like this, feel free to come and subscribe and hit the bell icon on the channel homepage and you'll be notified as and when that happens. Until next time, take care of yourselves, and unfortunately with this one, take the blue pill. Stay in the damn Matrix. You should have stayed dead. No, it didn't happen. It didn't happen. The three films are the only films that exist in this universe in my brain. It didn't happen, this movie. This was a what could have been. But it was just an attempt at a what could have been. That's all. Take care, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you again in the very next video.